Once upon a time, there was a little girl who lived in Bình district nearby to market. Whenever she went out, the little girl wore a Red Riding cloak, so everybody called her Little Red Riding Hood. One morning, Little Red Riding Hood asked her mother if she could go to visit her grandmother, as they hadn't seen each other for a while. Her mother agreed and begged a nice bag for Little Red Riding Hood to take to the grandmother. Remember, go straight to Grandma's house, don't dawdle along the way, and please don't talk to strangers. The streets are very dangerous, her mother warned.
Don't worry, Mama. I'll be careful,
said Little Red Riding Hood. Then she waved goodbye and started the journey. While looking at the street, Little Red Riding Hood's stomach started growling, so she decided to find some places to fill her stomach. She stopped by some eateries and ate a lot, such as bánh tráng trộn, bubble tea, and bánh trứng gà non Hong Kong. Little Red Riding Hood was enjoying the delicious food so much that she didn't notice a dark shadow approaching out of the alley behind her. Suddenly, the wolf appeared beside her.
What are you doing here, little girl?
The wolf asked in a low, deep voice.
I'm on my way to see my grandma who lives in District 4 near on London Bridge.
Red Riding Hood replied. Then she realized how late she was and quickly excused herself, rushing down the path to her grandma's house. The wolf, in the meantime, took a shortcut. The wolf, a little out of breath from running, arrived at Grandma's and knocked lightly at the door.
Oh, thank goodness, dear. Come in, come in. I was worried sick that something had happened to you on the street,
said Grandma, thinking that the knock was her granddaughter.
Oh my gosh, a wolf, a wolf!
Poor Granny did not have time to say another word before the wolf gobbled her up. The wolf let out a satisfied burp and then pulled through Granny's wardrobe to find a nightgown that he liked. A few minutes later, Red Riding Hood knocked on the door. The wolf jumped into bed and pulled the covers over his nose.
Who is it?
He asked.
It's me, Little Red Riding Hood.
Oh, how lovely. Do come in, my dear.
Crowed the wolf. When Little Red Riding Hood entered a little cottage, she could scarcely recognize her grandmother.
Grandmother, your voice so odd. What's the matter?
She asked.
I just have a cold.
Squeaked the wolf, adding a cough at the end to prove the point.
But grandmother, what big ears you have,
said Little Red Riding Hood as she edged closer to the bed.
The better to hear you with, my dear,
replied the wolf.
But grandmother, what big eyes you have,
said Little Red Riding Hood.
The better to see you with, my dear,
replied the wolf.
But grandmother, what big teeth you have,
said Little Red Riding Hood, her voice quivering slightly.
The better to eat you with, my dear,
roared the wolf, and he leapt out of bed and began to chase the little girl. Almost too late, Little Red Riding Hood realized that the person in the bed was not her grandmother, but a hungry wolf. She ran across the room and through the door, shouting, "Help, wolf! Help, wolf!" as loudly as she could. The cab driver, who was parking nearby, heard her cry and ran towards the house as fast as he could. He grabbed the wolf and made him spit out the poor grandmother, who was terrified by the whole experience, but still in one piece.
grandmother, I was so scared. I will never speak to strangers or daughter on the street again.
sobbed Little Red Riding Hood.
There, child. You've learned an important lesson. Thank goodness you shouted loud enough for this kind grab driver to hear you.
The wolf knelt on the floor and cried in vain.
I'm sorry, Grandma. In fact, I'm a vegetarian wolf. But because of COVID-19, I couldn't find anything to eat. When I saw Little Red Riding Hood, evil thoughts suddenly encroached on my dignity, and I couldn't stop them. Please forgive me.
Grandma was deeply touched by the wolf's pitiful story. They all agreed to forgive the wolf and even let him to stay with Grandma, and they lived happily ever after. The end.